Recorded Books and RB Digital present The Heritage of Hastur by Marion Zimmer Bradley. Narrated by Max Bellmore and Pete Bradbury. Chapter 1. As the riders came up over the pass which led down into Thendara, they could see beyond the old city to the Terran spaceport. Huge and sprawling, ugly and unfamiliar to their eyes, it spread like some strange growth below them, and all around it, ringing it like a scab, were the tightly clustered buildings of the trade city which had grown between old Thendara and the spaceport. Regis Hastur, riding slowly between his escorts, thought that it was not as ugly as they had told him in Nevarson. It had its own beauty, an austere beauty of steel towers and stark white buildings, each for some alien and unknown purpose. It was not a cancer on the face of Darkover, but a strange and not unbeautiful garment. The central tower of the new headquarters building faced the Coman Castle, which stood across the valley with an unfortunate aspect. It appeared to Regis that the tall skyscraper and the old stone castle were squared off and facing one another like two giants armed for combat. But he knew that was ridiculous. There had been peace between the Terran Empire and the Domains all of his lifetime. The Hasturs made sure of it. But the thought brought him no comfort. He wasn't much of a Hastur, he considered, but he was the last. They would make the best of him, even though he knew he was a damned poor substitute for his father, and everyone knew it. They never let him forget it for a minute. His father had died 15 years ago, just a month before Regis had been born. Raphael Hastur had, at 35, already shown signs of being a strong statesman and leader, deeply loved by his people, respected even by the Terrans, and he had been blown to bits in the Kilgard Hills, killed by contraband weapons smuggled from the Terran Empire. Cut off in the full strength of his youth and promise, he had left only an 11-year-old daughter and a fragile pregnant wife. Alana El Hallan Hastur had nearly died of the shock of his death. She had clung fitfully to life only because she knew she was carrying the last of the Hasturs, the long-forged son of Raphael. She had lived, racked with grief, just long enough for Regis to be born alive. Then, almost with relief, she had laid her life down. And after losing his father, after all his mother went through, Regis thought all they got was him, not the son they would have chosen. He was strong enough physically, even good-looking, but curiously handicapped for a son of the telepathic caste of the Domains, the Coman. A non-telepath. At 15, if he had inherited Laren power, he would have shown signs of it. Behind him, he heard his bodyguards talking in low tones. "I see they've finished their headquarters building. Hell of a place to put it within a stone's throw of Coman Castle. Well, they started to build it back in the Hellers at Caer Don. It was old Istvan Hastur in my grandsire's time who made them move the spaceport to Thendara. He must have had his reasons. Should have left it there, away from decent folk. Oh, the Terrans aren't all bad. My brother keeps a shop in the trade city. Anyway, would you want the Terran back in the hills where those mountain bandits and the damn Eldarans could deal with him behind our backs?" "Damned savages," the second man said. "They don't even observe the compact back there. You see them in the Hellers wearing their filthy cowards' weapons. Well, what would you expect of the Eldarans?" They lowered their voices, and Regis sighed. He was used to it. He put constraint on everyone just by being what he was, Coman and Hastur. They probably thought he could read their minds. Most Coman could. "Lord Regis," said one of his guards, "there's a party of riders coming down the northward road carrying banners. They must be the party from Armida with Lord Alton. Shall we wait for them and ride together?" Regis had no particular desire to join another party of Coman lords, but it would have been an unthinkable breach of manners to say so. At council season, all the Domains met together at Thendara. Regis was bound by the custom of generations to treat them all as kinsmen and brothers, and the Altons were his kinsmen. They slackened pace and waited for the other riders. They were still high on the slopes, and he could see past Thendara to the spread-out spaceport itself. A great distant sound, like a faraway waterfall, made the ground vibrate like thunder.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?